Good morning, guys. Today our topic is flying cars. So everybody saw the big boo-boo. I mean, it always has been a big boo-boo since the very start, right? When this bugger claimed that Malaysia has developed a flying car and the prototype will be ready by year 2020, and then it would test flight, blah blah, and all that. And everyone was really skeptical, right? Because you can never make too big of a claim with too short of a time span, with no background at all. And of course, it turns out it's just someone buying something from China. And then, as what most self-respectable sort of pseudo used to government link these type of businessmen, they will always make outrageous claims, right? And yeah, when we saw the pictures, everybody saw it. It's like, that's a freaking drone. That is not a car, let alone a flying car, right? Everybody laughed at the thing and said that that's a freaking drone. That's not a car. Now this begs the question: how should a flying car look like, right? And if it's meant to fly, then should it look like a car? And if it only flies, which part of it is a car, right? Is a little biplane, or is a helicopter, or a drone as we now call it, right? But whether it's a drone or whatever, it actually basically drones has the same uses the same apparatus to fly as per a helicopter, right? But the fact that it uses 4 or 5 smaller rotors instead of one huge rotor, that's the distinction, and that provides the extreme stability and maneuverability of drones as we come to know it. But actually, the word drone used to refer to something that mostly flies, or it can be something that is on the water and is remotely controlled, and it can be a plane, it can be whatever, as long as it flies by itself. It's called a drone back then. But anyway, now that drone as we know it looks something like what was shown, right? So what I want to discuss is, how should a flying car be? Or is it even logical to have flying cars? And why until now we still don't have flying cars? Now, cars as we come to know it, I mean, especially now it's 2019, 2020, if you want to develop a new car that you can sell in the US, in Europe, in Japan, even in Malaysia, or ASEAN for that matter, you need very stringent crash test standards. Alright? These crash test standards that qualifies you as a car is the biggest enemy for flight or plane. Why? Because our crash test standards is now so crazy that you need a lot of super high strength tensile steel, right, to get the crash rating that you wanted, or just to qualify you to be able to sell your car, right? And as you know, if you need something to fly, your biggest enemy is weight, right? That's why planes, they never really considered about building the fuselage or whatever structure to be how strong to sustain an impact, because they know that since you're going at speeds that you'll die anyway when you crash, there's no point to try and make it as strong as possible, or roll cage or whatever. There's just no point. Just if you screw up, if you no longer fly in the air, and you're doomed. Okay? Anyway, that's the basis of it. Now, I actually think the most feasible way to have any concept of a flying car is actually what everybody laughed at 2 or 3 days ago. Yes, that drone. Okay? Although this doesn't mean that company is a genius, right? Because to me, it's a bit of a joke, huh? They just tried it. They found something. They try to rebatch it or get it assembled in Malaysia just to get some government funding and just to get some tax incentive. Blah 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 blah. And try and squeeze their way through. Which at the end it proves they are less knowledgeable than they thought they were, because now that it's no longer a car, in order to fly, they need to get the approval from the aviation board and all that. But anyway, and of course, the government officials was like, hey, this has nothing to do with us, right? All this silly debacle has nothing to do with us. And even Anthony Loke was like, that's not a car, that's a drone, right? But let's talk about the fundamentals, right? Cars provides individual mobility. Cars is as if our shoes or our bicycles, right? They allow us to go further distances, and it allows individual freedom of mobility. Okay, an SUV gives you more mobility because you get to go where roads that are not paved, right? You get to go as well. But for normal cars, as long as the roads are paved or there's not too big of an angularity, you'll be able to drive over it, right? So that's the benefit of cars. Now, of course, when we drive on the roads, we need to travel at highway speeds. Because why the government build roads? If the government built these beautiful roads and everyone drove up on these roads and traveled at 15 km/h, the government is not achieving its objective of improving the speed of mobility, which improves the speed of economy, right? Because city A will be delivering goods to city B and then vice versa, and that improves economy. Economy is great when everybody is connected and more goods flow in between. That improves economy, right? So there we have it, right? What we're using, the roads, the cars, because we need to travel at that kind of speed that will bring mobility to our economy, we somehow then came to this day whereby all cars have exceptionally high crash standards. Of course, some, like this Volvo, is way higher than that Myvi, for example, right? So, that is cars, right? Now, the amalgamation of these two to try and mix a car and thinking that what if it had wings and then it can fly to skip the traffic jam and all that, it's a very utopian or in a way childish, but every boy dreams of it, right? Everyone dreams that, oh, how I wish I'll be driving and then, hey, screw that, let's fly, and then take out my wings or whatever, and then my car just start flying, right? It's impossible, right? Why? Solely because of weight. Now the thing is this, cars weigh anywhere between 1.3 to 1.4 tons, okay? So in order for you to negate this weight, then you have to think of which method of flying you're going to use, right? Because the more weight, the more energy you need and the more energy you need, the higher capacity of the energy carrier that is needed. If you're powered by electric, you need a huge battery, right? If you are powered by internal combustion engine, that means you're gonna burn a lot of fuel just to produce that kind of power, right? That means you're not efficient, you have shorter range and all that, vice versa, okay? In order to lift. Or yes, I know someone here might be saying that, hey, a plane is heavy as well, it's heavier than a car. Yes, because the method of flying uses wings, right? A huge wing that spans way out of its utility footprint, right? Let's say a plane the footprint is like this, and then the wings are like, right? Because of wings that provides lift. When you have air travel fast enough through the wings, then it produces lift, right? So that is a way. Having cars with wings is the exact way that cars cannot fly, because in order to do that, you need a runway. You need a runway with no one obstructing you in front or back. It's not like you're trying to fly now. Okay, there's a jam in front. Now I'm attempting to fly. Then you put your wings out. Then you start to speed up to create lift, and then one maybe cuts out without putting their signal. You can't do that on a public road. You must go to an airstrip. And when you go to an airstrip, you're no longer you're not flying as and when you wish, right? You can only fly from an airstrip. If you fly from an airstrip, why don't you just have a plane at the airstrip instead of driving your 2.2 ton Maybach with wings or your 1.4 ton Corolla with wings? It just doesn't make sense, right? Moreover, when you have a car with wings, you're gonna have extra weight. It's gonna ruin your aerodynamics when you drive. You're gonna have high fuel consumption while driving because of the wings, and then you're gonna have very, very short range when you're flying because of the high strength tensile steel that is used on a car that is supremely heavy. Now, then we come back. That means we can throw all this out now, right? A car with wings is impossible using current methods or current infrastructure. It's just impossible. It's just a bit stupid, right? Nevertheless, I mean, you can drive your wing car day in and day out. If I'm talking practicality, you'll be thinking that, hey, a Ferrari is not very practical either. It's like, okay, for novelty purposes, maybe, right? You can have a plane that sort of has wheels that can reach highway speeds on the road, that's okay. Then you need all the parameters to be on the road. You need to have wing mirrors, you need to have bumpers, you have third brake lights. You need all this that complies to be called a car, right? Or a special permit can be issued for these wing cars or car planes, to drive on the road. Yes. They may not be practical, but they're fun. By all means, okay? By all means, right? Okay. Now we come back to the notion of flying cars, right? The idea that cars fly in those science fiction movies, Fifth Element and all that, you have cars all flying and all that, right? The thing is this, we call them a car when we can recognize it's a car. That means when it has 3 boxes, right? This is something that looks like a front bonnet, a passenger compartment, and then a boot. Case in point, you look at Fifth Element, you look at Back to the Future movies and all that. That thing that flies is instantly recognizable as a car. Whether it drives on the road or not no longer matters, because it looks like a car. So Fifth Element, you have all these flying cars, and you look at the visuals, they look like they are like how many kilometers up in the air. So it's rather unlikely that they even drive on the roads. If those flying cars in Fifth Element do not drive on the road, they just fly around, why the heck do they look like cars? It just doesn't make sense, right? Of course, they have some propulsion, right? They have something that looks like something that makes it float. Provided we develop that, then we can have our flying whatever to look like cars, right? Easy entry, exit, and all that. But if you don't, since we don't have, our best bet now is actually drones. So for us, if we want a flying car, if we want a future where everybody from our homes don't actually ride on the road anymore, we have some form of our personal car. Let's say the new Proton X7000, or BMW 3 whatever 3 million, and and you buy that from BMW. There's the BMW brand, there's the logo and all that, but it's a flying car, right? Now, the best bet, most fuel-efficient way, based on current technology, provided we have some antimatter or anti-gravity. Before we develop something anti-gravity, the best bet, most efficient way of lifting something up and then to be able to move forward and back, left and right, and then land at some place, doesn't use too much energy compared to other forms, is actually the drones that we have currently. Alright, so yes, everybody laughed at the flying car, the Malaysian flying car that day, and I would still laugh at them because I don't think they are as smart they're not involved in the initial stage of designing that thing. It's China's company. Don't know what's the name of that company that is that an RS6? No, that's not. Okay, anyway. The Malaysian side wasn't involved, right? To them it's just, oh, this is interesting, oh, I'm going to bring it here, okay, maybe I can get some funding, oh, the government will support this, oh, usual. And then make bold claims like, oh, our R&D is done and blah blah. It's bullshit. All the time that he was claiming R&D and all that blah blah, maybe he's just trying to find money to get funding and to get the approval, necessary approval and all that. But anyway, the fact that everybody was laughing at that is because it doesn't look like a car. It doesn't have the classic car proportions. If it does, people will say, oh, that's a flying car, right? That's how naive most people are, which includes myself, includes everybody, but that's just human nature, right? You can't call an elephant if it doesn't have the features of an elephant, right? But if all we're thinking is mobility at its very core, individual freedom of mobility from here to there at the fastest way possible, and probably from here to there without needing roads and all that. Everybody on a drone just flying that. The thing that was shown there is actually the best bet currently. Is how a flying car would be, or a flying personal mobility vehicle would be, because that's the best way and the easiest way and to actually lift yourself up in the air. That's how it is. Now, why drones? Okay, so actually drones operate the same way as helicopters, right? So we all understand planes, right? Because what is going on? Every single... Oh dear. Oh dear. What's wrong with the sensors? Okay, there you have it. There you have it. Please, please, please. Alright. Our low-tech stuff. Ooh, that's a nice Volvo police car. That's the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. That's our royalty, with a lot of Passat behind. Very nice entourage. Oh, another Volvo S90. Oh, the Volvo S90 as a police car looks beautiful. Anyway, let's back to our topic, okay? So, yeah. We understand how a plane flies, because you go with speed, air travels on the wing, and then it goes up, right? That's why it flies. But that needs a long airstrip. Now, how can we make a plane fly without needing a long airstrip? Then you think, how do I make that wing go through a lot of air to provide lift without needing the runway? So what if I put the wing on rotation? That means it rotates and comes back, right? So I put a lot of wings and they move through air very fast to provide lift, and the vehicle will go up. That's a helicopter. That's how Sikorsky invented the helicopter, or Leonardo da Vinci, if you look at the drawings, right? Yeah. So drones are actually the same way, and it's the same thing actually. You have what resemble wings going, they call it rotors, but they're actually wings, thinner wings, that can go very fast through air, produce lift, and a few of them on one rotational device, and then you can go up. That's how drones or helicopters get their lift. Alright, so yep, that eliminates the runway. That allows you to go to do VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing, and you can go up and down. And with what is coming out of China now, the technology on drones, the AI, the software and all that, I strongly believe that guy who said Malaysia has our flying car, if he can hold off for another 10 years, his plan will succeed. Because that will be how flying cars will be in the future if we actually look through it, right? If we actually see things in a more open manner, to look at the fundamentals of what means personal mobility, what flies a car. Yeah, everybody on drones. Then you're talking. Then you'll be asking, what about safety? What if the drone? There are so many drone crashes. Well, there are quite a number of private, basically private planes. You know those private jets that are so small. They are already selling in US or Europe. Okay, people buy them. Even in Australia, people buy them. Okay, they cost about 2 or 3 million each. It's not expensive at all. And those tiny little private jets are for private usage. That means dad and mom might be flying that plane and the kids behind, and it's a 5 or 6 seater, and then they fly up to the air. Their footprint is not much bigger than a small bus. Alright, that is how they are. They have parachutes. Yes, those have parachutes, whereby if anything fails, the parachute will deploy and they get to, because of the lack of weight, because they are small, they are lightweight, the parachutes can help them land safely. Right? So imagine a world, a future whereby we have these drones. Everybody has one, and you fly up to the air, and of course with 5G technology or 6G that allows intercommunication of devices, right? With AI, the cameras, that means that drone has its own cameras and sensors that feeds through its own communication system with one another to be able to calculate the path for one another, to know everybody, where everybody is, and just to have a programming that don't allow these drones to come into contact with one another in close proximity. That can be avoided, no problem. Any normal computer lab tests, simple codes, these codings are out there already, can program in this kind of codes that don't allow each of these little microbots to come into contact with one another. This is a small concern, seriously. Crashing into one another is actually a small concern when you're flying, right? When you're driving, not so. Why? Because wheels is a single linear trajectory device. That means wheels only go straight. You're like, what do you mean? Cars turn. Yes, you turn the steering so that the wheels can continue to go straight in a different direction. Understand? So it's not so easy to have something that allows them to move, provided we have another way of propulsion that allows us to move indefinitely in terms of direction. That, coupled with that AI, would work, right? Planes, drones can do that. Cars can't, right? Cars only go straight. Wheels only go straight. With the application of steering wheels, they go straight in a different direction. Understand? Okay, anyway. So yeah, with a parachute, done. Too long a video.